Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name's Teresa Kopsky. I serve as your town administrator. This is our second public informational. We will have 3 in total. And I don't have a microphone, but we'll try to make this work. The last meeting that we had gave you an idea of what Proposition 2.5 is, why we're here, why we needed to propose a Proposition 2.5 override. We talked about using one-time revenues. We talked about the projection of the budget and how that budget has a huge financial gap. This is not new news. You've had this gap over and over and over for years. However, what is different is that each year the gap gets bigger and bigger. But what you've done is you've been voting to use free cash, a one-time revenue, as a Band-Aid. Now we're at the point where the Band-Aid, there is no more Band-Aids. The first aid box is empty. So now we're at a real point where you will need to decide what you're comfortable with and where you see your community, what you think is best for the community. Again, I'm going to say this again. This is not my vote. It's not the select board's vote. It's not advisory's vote. This is your decision. So it is our obligation to give you the information that you need. What you do with it, that's your decision, because that's what democracy is all about, right? So there's a couple of things that I've heard. I'm not on Facebook. I will be the first to admit I'm kind of a dinosaur like that, and I have no time. Just don't have time for it. But I have heard that there's concerns out there about fear-mongering. As tonight, we're going to be talking about what these budgets are going to look like, what the services, programs are going to look like with a reduced budget. It's not fear-mongering, I can assure you. I wouldn't do that, couldn't do it. I won't lie for my mother, I'm not going to lie for a town. But what I will do is talk about what this is going to look like. You have a huge deficit in your budget. If you want the services to be maintained as they are, then that's one thing. And if you don't, and you don't mind the gutting of departments and the services, then that's fine too. Again, it's your decision. So we're not here to give you a story. We're here just to present the facts. Tonight, you're going to hear from several department heads. And I have to warn you that at the time that they were creating their presentations, I'm going to back it up at the beginning of the budget process, which typically the projections for a town budget start in November, December. And you project out based on history, usually go back 3 to 5 years. We did that. And that's when it became very clear that once again, there would be a big deficit. And there was the decision made, we had several meetings, and a decision made to go forward with a dual budget process. We asked all the departments to submit a level service budget, which consisted of a 2.5% increase for the salaries. And mind you, you have a lot of unions, so that comes into play. And a 2% in the expenditures. Well, we kind of know going into that 2% for your expenditures is probably not going to be enough. But we'll make do. We'll do what we need to do. So even in the level services budget, chances are we're going to be trimming the budgets back a bit. They were also tasked with a reduced budget. That reduced budget, as the department submitted those to me, and our financial consultant. We reviewed them with the departments. Every department had been told that once those are calculated and we get closer to finalizing the budget, we will know where we're at. And you may be called back for another round. As of last Thursday, it looks imminent that we'll be going back for additional cuts. So what I want to say to you is that I also had heard concern about this feeling in the past, and I'm really sorry to even bring it up, but in the past that a lot of folks had felt that they've been here, done that. They've heard the stories, and this is where there's a little bit of loss of trust, let's say. And I am so sorry that that happened to you. And I'm not sure if it was misunderstandings or what exactly it was, but I feel bad for that. And I realize that that was a big hurdle to overcome. So we want to be as transparent as possible. I want to tell you, please go to the website, go to the town administrator's page. On there, we've got a draft of the omnibus. And that one we focused on the second ballot question, the 1.1 override, and you'll see that that number really comes very, very close to that 1.1. You're also going to see at the very bottom of that what your revenues are, what the expenditures are, and what the difference is, which is just about $1.1 million. I think that's about all I have to say, and I am going to hand it over to the chief. One more thing. If we could save any questions until the end, that would be great. We don't want to make this last any longer than it has to, so we'll cap it at 2 hours. And but if you can save those, and then we'll try to hear from everybody that we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Nathan Haglin. I'm your chief of police. I've been your chief of police for the past 3 years, and I have a lot of gratitude for everybody that I've had to meet along the way. You guys have all helped me. I grew up in a small town, not quite as small as West Brookfield, but I really enjoy working in West Brookfield. With me tonight is...
My name's Lieutenant Latender. Most of you know me. I'll be here for 17 years in August. Quite a while. I know a lot of you. I grew up in a small town, New Braintree. When I got hired here, I said I wanted to work in a small town, and I haven't left. So,
I believe Lieutenant Latender is our longest tenured employee in town as well. So, this was happier times. This was a promotional ceremony. This is our whole gang. In fact, you see retired Chief Tom O'Donnell there. And we're just going to run you through a couple scenarios. The first one is our level services scenario. And then the second one is going to be the reduced services scenario. And we just updated our PowerPoint on April 2nd. So whenever we update it, we'll throw an updated number on there when we update it. And we'll throw it up on our website, and we'll throw it up on our social media. But Matt and I are going to run you through these slides. Maybe. You want to do the first one?
So the West Brookfield Police Department, we provide 24-hour coverage, 7 days a week to our residents. The overtime, we keep a one officer on duty at all times, 2 on the evening shift. That's what we try and run. The administrative duties with billing, payroll, detail assignments, extra duty assignments, summer concert on the Commons.
Lieutenant,
Yes?
could you yell?
Yell?
We've got the folks in the back that can't hear.
Memorial Day, the Halloween, White Christmas. That's what we try and staff officers for. Any kind of emergency, long duration of events such as storms, domestic violence calls. Sometimes officers have to stay after on a domestic violence call. You just can't leave at 3 o'clock if your shift ends at 3 o'clock. And any other fire calls or any other unexpected calls.
And I just want to point out on the 2 on the evening shift, that is a goal of ours. But when we have an officer take a midnight shift off or an evening shift off or a day shift off, one of our officers is a flex officer. So 4 out of those 6 days, we're able to move that officer up and down to cover those assignments. And we've only recently been able to do that. And a couple things about that is that has really increased our department morale. Our officers, from the time I got here till beginning of last year, forced to cover 24/7, 365, 5 of them. And that's oh boy. Now I'm a mess. There we go. And that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of stress for those officers. A lot of times, you know, if you have 5 officers, one calls in sick, that's 4, you got 1 or 2 on a day off, there's only 1 or 2 people that can take that shift. And that has really damaged morale and the health of our department. And with this 2 officers on evening shift number 1, it's safer for us. It saves overtime. It saves the part-time patrol budget, and it's really good for our morale as well. My goodness, huh? So our first option is our level services budget, okay? This will allow us to operate like we always have. We are the only town department with 24/7, 365 coverage. If you call 911, we are coming. And here's what the budget looks like. I broke this down just to the salaries and expense lines. But know the salary lines, that includes overtime, our part-time patrol, shift differential, pensionable and non-pensionable stipends. Okay? So in FY26, our total was $795,283. And in FY27, we're requesting $815,450, a 2.54% increase. 5.88% of that is increases to patrol salaries. But we're able to keep that cost down because this is the first year we've had that off. Oh, my goodness, what? We're able to keep that cost down because of flexing that officer to the different shifts, and that's really been helpful for us. So we're able to make some reductions in overtime. My Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uncle Tom, yeah, good to see you. You want to go ahead? Or you want to wait? You guys want to wait just 1 minute? So while they're waiting, I'll just briefly explain the overtime a little bit more. Our department writes in our overtime for the Memorial Day parade and all those ancillary things, White Christmas. We don't have separate overtime lines to fund those. So it's all thrown into one overtime line. So when we talk about the reduction of services, though that overtime line is severely impacted.
That's his chair.
All right, I think you're good, Matt.
So budget option 2, the reduced service budget, non-overtime budget. This budget will not be able to cover 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 coverage. We'll be having 8-hour periods of time throughout the year without a police officer covering the town. If you call, there may be an officer on duty. There may not be an officer on duty. If we don't have the overtime to fill it, then you can't fill it. I can't ask somebody to just be here for free.
Officer vacancies. It's expensive to hire officers. So when we have officer vacancies, we had one a few years ago. We actually sent an officer to the academy, and the total cost of that was around $75,000. By the time we were done sending them to the academy, paying them, backfilling all their shifts, getting their equipment, we had to backfill 82 patrol shifts. We don't have to backfill that many shifts anymore because of those 2 officers on the evening shift. That's a little bit insulated, but it's still going to cost $35,000, $40,000 to hire a new officer. So sampling a call. Actually, why don't you do the sampling calls? I'll do the next one.
Sampling calls of service. We did 8,575 calls of service for 2025. 43 arrests. 25 of them were on the midnight shift. 68 domestic disturbances, restraining orders, or abuse prevention orders. 25 of them were on the midnight shift. We did 4 unattended deaths, 1 on the midnight shift, 3 sex offenses, 2 on the midnight shift, 99 suspicious activities or threat incidences. 14 of them were on the midnight shift, and 159 fire-related calls.
And we're not guaranteeing that we're shutting down the midnight shift. It's going to be on a rolling basis of. Why does this keep on going? It's going to be on a rolling basis of when we lose the shift coverage, depending on how we're going to have to fill that gap or not fill that gap. To give you an example, this year we requested $59,000 for overtime. The previous fiscal year, we requested $87,000 in overtime. So we went from $87,000 to $59,000 because of all the savings that we had. But the way the officer schedules work, it's not always going to be the midnight shift that is going to be vacant. So when we're talking about, say, well, Chief, why don't you shut down the midnight shift? Well, tell that to the two people, two of the three sex offense calls, when one came in at 2 a.m. and one came in at 4 a.m. And we don't know where the closest officer is to respond. What we're going to use, you'll find another slide, is the state police. But we don't know where they're going to be coming from. So we'll give you a couple examples. We had a house fire in 2025. Our officer arrived 4 minutes after the first, a house fire in 2025, officer arrived 4 minutes before the first arriving firefighter and 8 minutes before the first arriving engine. Officers used a fire extinguisher to cause a kitchen fire, limiting damage to the home. Okay? Our officers were on duty in the cruisers. Sergeant Perot was in there. He was field training a new officer, and Lieutenant Latender was just coming off duty and responded off duty to come back in. He arrived first and used his fire extinguisher to put out the house fire. This particular family, had this fire been going on, the damage would have likely been much more. It took 8 minutes for the fire engine to get there. And this is no shade. We are all team public safety, okay? We get along with everybody really well. But our officers are just in the cruisers ready to go. And they were able to put out that fire, saving tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for the homeowner. Another example, an unresponsive person. In January, we responded to an unresponsive person. We arrived 2 minutes and 32 seconds before EMS. And that's really important. And it's no shade on our EMS brothers and sisters. We're just in the cruisers. We carry oxygen and defibrillators in our cruisers, which are really important. We recently had a Narcan incident where a person had overdosed, and it took 3 shots of Narcan to get them back. And our officers were there first to do that. So here's my little asterisk. West Brookfield PD works closely with our fire and EMS partners every day. And these examples simply show the value of having officers already on patrol and ready to respond. I'll take this one too. So why does local coverage matter? Our EMS partnership, our fighter partnership, our West Brookfield Rescue Squad, we analyzed every call in January where both PD and EMS responded. Because we're already on patrol in the community and equipped with defibrillators and oxygen, we arrived first about 50% of the time. So about 50% of the time we didn't arrive first. If a mutual aid ambulance was used, so someone other than the West Brookfield Rescue Squad came into town, that average response time was 12 minutes and 5 seconds faster. The largest gap was 36 minutes.
Priorities of the police department and operating on a reduced budget. Keep staff at 24/7 as much as feasible, knowing that it's not going to be possible to have an officer on every day or 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Utilize the state police when the officers are not on duty. That means, we'll be using the Brookfield State Police Barracks. They're not always around. They could be in Worcester. They cover, I don't know exactly how many towns, but anywhere from here to Warren, to Barry, to Paxton, to Worcester. That's their area, just the Brookfield Barracks. Neighboring communities, we would have to use them for mutual aid. They would, whether it's North Brookfield, Warren, if there's not an officer here, they would have to come in and handle the call. They have to cover their own communities, delays in freedom of information requests, that's if we have to cut our hours on our administrative assistant, which is going to be in the budget. We're budgeted to cut her hours from 30 to 8. So any kind of requests, reports, LTCs, stuff like that, she's always there Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That won't be like that anymore with this reduced budget.
Just a little more clarification. Your Brookfield Barracks carries 11 towns. They have an East Patrol and a West Patrol. There's 2 officers total for those 11 communities. Overtime reduction realities. What will we be unable to cover? We're going to be unable to backfill many shifts throughout the year. With the $18,000 that we have in our budget, that affords us somewhere around 360 to 365 hours of overtime. We need between 775 and 925 hours of overtime to cover everything that. Oh man. I think this was on a time delay when I first had it. So we need somewhere between 775 and 925, but we only have somewhere between 360 and 365 hours. So any unexpected or long-term duration event, it's going to be very difficult for us to deal with. The summer concert series after, July 1st, we're going to be unable to do that. The bonfire, we're going to be unable to cover that. That's what we write in our budget. Halloween, we put extra officers on for Halloween. Anybody that's been in the center of town or the surrounding roads on Halloween knows how busy it gets. We don't have extra officers for that, so it's going to be whoever's here is going to be out in the community. White Christmas. You all know we get 1,100 extra people in town for White Christmas. That used to be in our budget. We would hire an extra officer or 2 for the day. That is no longer in the budget. And Memorial Day. Memorial Day costs us plus or minus $1,800 to do the Memorial Day parade. We're going to be, after this year, we got permission to do that this year, but in the next year's budget, we'll be unable to cover that Memorial Day parade. That would be 10% of our total overtime budget. $1,800 for one day, $18,000 for the whole year. I'll do this one. So the administrative assistant, anybody that knows Sherry knows that she's probably, and I don't mean this insulting, one of the hardest working people in our building. She gets here at 8 a.m. She goes to the post office somewhere around midday, and she works the whole day doing Freedom of Information Act requests, license to carries, whatever you name it, she does it. She handled somewhere around 250 license to carry applications last year. Those take about 60 to 90 minutes each. Approximately 400 of Freedom of Information Act requests, and these aren't one pages. Some of them need to be severely redacted. She's a billing and payroll coordinator. This week, we have 50 details scheduled. 50. When I came here in 2023, we had 53 for the whole year. This week, we have 50 details scheduled. It's definitely, this is on a timing thing. Files our general paperwork and coordinates service functions for our PD. Serves as a confidential secretary to me, and it's the first person who greets you. Who's going to have to do this? Our police officers and administrators will need to pick up the work, leaving less available time for proactive patrol. Our officers already have a ton of work to do. Inside, we're a small department, so that means our officers have a lot of jobs. Right? So it wasn't a cruise around patrol right now. Well, they're probably inside doing something else. This is going to bring them inside a lot more. Sherry works 30 hours a week. We're probably looking at 40 to 40 hours a week until we figure out how to do her job. That's a lot of time our officers aren't going to be on patrol. So 10% reduction. And if you look at our 10% reduction from FY26, it's pretty significant, but if you go from what our original request was $815,000 for the level services budget, we're now at $715,000. it's just something that we're not going to be able to really manage very well. That's really going to affect our services that we provide to you guys. Anything else? With that, today's the 13th, so you're all here today. We'll answer any of your questions after everybody else presents, because I've taken more than my 15 minutes. So. I don't know who's up next. Down. I think that paints it right. Mine were on timer, so mine were screwed up.
Down to go? Okay. While we're waiting for her to get this set up, my name's Tom Bissett. I'm the new fire chief. I've been here just under a month now. I come from North Brookfield. I was a deputy chief there. I had 20 years on that department. I look forward to working in West Brookfield. It's a great opportunity. I'm hoping that we can get through this and move forward in the future.
Sorry, Chief.
No worries.
Whole difficulties here.
Today's low is 55 degrees, and the high is 72 degrees. Looks like it'll be.
This is how you wanted it?
That should work. Should have picked better colors. I didn't realize it was going to blend into the background. My apologies. All right. So just going to do a quick overview of our department, how we're made up, some past budget, and then some future budgeting. So how is the department currently what is it comprised of currently? Right now we have a part-time fire chief. That's myself. I do 19 hours a week. That's down from the old position, which was, I believe, a full-time position with benefits. And then currently we have 14 on-call members. So that's 14 firefighters, other officers that make up our staff. For equipment, we have 3 structural engines. We have a command vehicle, a squad, a brush truck, and then some special operations equipment. What do? We respond to emergencies as called. That could include fires, alarm activations, motor vehicle accidents, medical assists, water and ice rescues, animal rescues, and anything in between that you guys could call us for. We do fire prevention activities. That's permitting. So the sale of a home, we do what's called a 26F inspection or a smoke and CO inspection. We do business inspections. We inspect businesses for their liquor licenses every year. We have to inspect the nursing homes. We inspect fire alarm systems. So that also includes your annual business inspections. And then we also try to do the safe and senior safe programs in the school system. Just like PD, we also do community events as well. You'll see us around at the bonfire, the Asparagus Festival, the White Christmas, excuse me, and other events in town. So just going over some of our budgets on the department. Currently this year we operated about $187,000. That's up about 6% from the previous year, and on average we've been going up about 2% each year. About 110,000 of that is just salaries alone. And about 77,000 is our equipment budget. Moving into FY27, sitting down with the TA and I'll be sitting down with the Financial Advisory Committee later on this week. This is kind of what we've come up with. We're looking at about a 7% cut in our budget for the next year. About 6% of that will come out of our salaries. And then about 8% of that we found places in our expenses that we could cut. One part of the salaries, moving from that full-time chief to the part-time chief, is about $10,000 right there alone that we could move into someplace else to make up some coverages. And then in the expenses, we just found areas that we felt that maybe we could make some deferments or some other changes moving into the future. So what would the impacts be to us? We were talking about possibly creating a fire inspector position. Being that I'm only part-time and I only do about 19 hours a week, that position would allow for faster processing of permits, inspections, the SAFE program, just allow the services to get provided a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient. We'd have a little bit of reduced ability to send members to professional development courses and trainings. Just like PD, we have to send our members to the fire academy before they can become a certified firefighter. Our ability to do that would be greatly reduced. I just want everyone to be aware, being a call department, we still have to recruit, hire, and train new members. We are not here 24/7. When the emergency comes in, we respond as requested. Our members come from home, they come from their jobs, they come from out in events in the community. So we're not always guaranteed to have those 14 members available at any one time. You could get 2 members during the daytime. You could get 10 members at night. You really never know. So it's imperative as a call department that we're always recruiting, we're always hiring, and we're always trying to train those new members. Working on a reduced budget next year, some of the things that we're going to have to deal with is possibly deferring some maintenance and repairs on apparatus. It's not something that we really want to do. It's stuff that's really could become a safety concern in the future. Some vital equipment testing may be put on hold. We try to test our hose yearly. We try to do a pump test on our vehicles yearly to make sure that they're in tip-top shape to perform the functions that they're required in that emergency situation. Just last week, we performed hose testing, and we lost almost 1,000 feet of hose. That's roughly $7,400 that we now have to take from our budget to purchase hose to make up that gap. That's not a typical year, but you do lose some every single year, and you have to make that purchase in order to replace it. Other vital purchases of equipment may be put on hold as we move into this budget as well. Oh, going the wrong way again. That's just a brief overview. If anyone has any questions at the end, please feel free to ask me. I just want to make sure that everyone has my contact info. If you guys think of anything after this, please feel free to reach out, leave a voicemail, I'll call you right back, or feel free to reach me on my email. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think everybody knows me, hopefully. I've been here 16 years. My name is Jim Daly. I'm the highway superintendent. And with me today is Ann. Ann's with me for about the last year. Ann is my assistant, and she's not just a secretary. She does a lot of stuff for the highway department. So obviously, I'm not happy about coming up and talking about cutting services. I've been trying to do the best I can with what we've been given every year. You know, the advisory and the selectmen have always been, microscoping and looking at the budget, and then understandably, and we've been held to the line as best as possible, but we've been trying to keep the services. So I'm not going to talk about the level funded budget. I'm just going to talk about what potentially is going to be cut if we don't get a 2.5 override. So I'm just going to go through what is on the cut list, and that's if there's questions like about specific budgets later on, I can email you specific budgets, or we can talk about them afterwards. So we do a lot of different functions. It's not just the highway. So I'm also the tree warden. So we ended up cutting the tree warden budget by 44%, 44.32, which is like $20,000, based almost in half. Currently, we have a 4-year backlog of trees that can be removed. They've been identified as hazardous. There's trees on the list that have been there since when Jim DeMaio was a tree warden. They still haven't been taken down. So we're going just emergency removal by emergency removal. So that's that. The highway budget, they've actually have asked me to cut that by 10%. Currently it's cut at 5.79%. So what that entails is cutting vehicle maintenance, which is like cutting our own throats, because we have 20 and 25-year-old vehicles that if we don't maintain them, they're gonna go over in that yard over there with the fire trucks and get auctioned away. I just had a Mack truck, over $10,000 of parts and the brakes. So that's how expensive it is. So that got cut. We also had a cut on the line item for cleaning catch basins and so forth, which we're supposed to clean every one of them. We only clean about half of them. And the toughest one was we cut the administrative assistant hours down from 40 to 24. And what she does, all the grant stuff and the reimbursements, it's all gone online. It's not like the old days where you sit down with paper and pencil and you do it. It has to be done a certain sequence. So if you don't follow the guidelines, you're not going to get your reimbursements on time. And the accountant that's why the hours, that's why we have her. The accountant department and the treasurer wanted to get the monies back in as soon as possible. So that's what I'm worried about there. And now we go to winter roads. So in winter roads, the tough one on winter roads is last year I went to the advisory board because I can't get people at $22 an hour to run plow trucks. So I'm actually down 3 people. This year I was down 3 people as of the years past. So we're making it up with hours. So in the year before, same thing. So you don't have a body to put on the private roads. So we went to the advisory and they let us hire a contractor to do some of the private roads. With this budget, the contractor will be taken away. So I don't know how you can do private roads. Central fuel. Central fuel is really, the highway now manages the fuel. Before, each department managed it. So they'd have a line item for, the police department would have a line item for $25,000 and so forth and so on. We buy the fuel, so now we budget it and monitor it, so we're keeping a better eye on it. So we're just going by the prices, how many gallons we use on average and the price. So we were lucky there, we're the price, hopefully it stays where it is. We cut central fuel down 10.57%. Then we go to the drop-off center. Another tough one. The only thing we can do there, as opposed to not closing it, is we're talking about closing it on Wednesdays. That's a savings of around, what is that amount? $4,500. Mainly salary. All salary. Then we talked about articles. So normally, every year, the selectmen and the advisory board fund account for private roads. So if somebody calls, needs some gravel or needs something done, we can supply them with a load of gravel to fill in an emergency response or something like that. It's been like every year, 10,000. Sometimes a long time ago it was a lot more than that. Probably Tom Long remembers we did quite a bit on private roads, right? So we're talking about cutting that $10,000 out. Town road maintenance, last couple of years we've been getting $75,000 a year. We're gonna cut that down to $50,000 a year. And that money goes so far because it makes it so we can do work without always going through prevailing wage, and it gives a lot more flexibility for us to do stuff in-house. So that's gonna also hurt. I don't know what else I missed, but that's it in a nutshell. You know, it's not pleasant. You know, I always try to maintain services and try to make things better every year, and for me to even talk about this is very uncomfortable. Anything you want to say?
Do you want me to go on?
Yeah.
So after hearing all of the things that we've been asked to cut from the highway budget, which will directly impact the services to you as residents, we just want to let you know what passing the override, and I know that it's a big ask, and we're all in a tough position, but to pass the override means that the highway can continue to keep current tree, road, and snow services as they are. It will continue giving you access to a full-time secretary, admin, for answering resident phone calls and emails, for writing grants, which I do, for administering the monies for the grants that come in, which I do, and those reimbursements, and to administer all the Chapter 90 monies and reimbursements. The next thing, passing the override means maintaining the drop-off center schedule at 2 days a week, keeping it open Wednesdays and Saturdays for your convenience. With that closing 1 to 1 day a week, we anticipate that, you know, your clean roadsides, people who don't have time or can't get to the drop-off center are going to start dumping stuff on the roads, on the roadsides. That's going to lead to the highway department, again, having to clean up that. So that's more time taken away from us taking care of your roads. The next thing that we'll do is continue supporting private roads and public road safety. Everybody pays taxes. Everybody wants their roads taken care of. It's a real difficulty having to tell people that live on private roads that we're not going to be able to help them out. And the last thing, just maintaining the town common and the community standards that we've come to enjoy. West Brookfield, when you drive from town to town out here, West Brookfield is one of the most beautiful towns, and that's a lot owing to you, our residents, and to the highway department, who does their best to keep it looking good for you. And I think that's all we have. We just, in summary, we face this budget shortfall. It means that service cuts, if the override doesn't pass, those things are going to affect your daily life and your community safety. And it's a hard decision, and we're just letting you all know that this is where we are, and this is the choices that you as the taxpayers and the residents face. So again, passing the override keeps services that you rely on intact, and we thank you all for coming here tonight and listening to us, and we encourage you to keep asking questions and to please come out and vote, whatever your decisions may be. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and talk loud. I'm sorry, I'm not super loud spoken, but my name is Jillian Patch. I'm the treasurer collector, tax collector. I am here. A lot of the information that I'm going to present is kind of not so much the cuts. We're a really small expense line department. We did cut 6%. We didn't even with advisory go over our level services because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to save the town and make the town as much money as possible. That's been my goal since I walked in the door 2.5 years ago. Okay. Thank you. So really, kind of what Teresa spoke to earlier was, you know, the lack of, I guess, trust and confidence. I felt that when I walked in the door, that the townspeople had a lack of trust and confidence in the treasurer collector's office. And from day one, my goal has been to reverse that thought process. That we are posting your payments within 24 hours of receipt, that we are sending out demands timely. I give a 2-week at most grace period for people. Usually it's about a week when I send out demands. I know the taxpayers, you know, the goal that's what funds the town. I know the treasurer collector, tax collector is not the most loved position. But we are always there with a smiling face. We understand paying taxes isn't fun. I pay taxes. My assistant lives in town and she pays taxes. We all know it's not a fun thing to do. It's what we have to do as Americans, right? So my goal has been to improve our office from the day that I started. So as you can see here, since fiscal 24, I did start in fiscal 24, we have been able to increase collections going from 90, so most recent year, fiscal 25, that's been reconciled. We increased to 98.78% of real estate collections, which is up from 97.28 in fiscal 23 and 96.54 back to fiscal 21. That is your levy. That is the money that we're collecting from taxes. That is what funds the budget. The treasurer collector, not only do we receive all income for the town, we have to reconcile all income, and we also are dispersing all of the bills, all of the department's budgets that are going out. All of the money comes through my office and goes back out of my office. The next one is motor vehicle collections. That one jumped quite a bit. Fiscal 25, we collected 91.61% of the motor vehicle collection, which is up from 87.73% in fiscal 23 and 81.39% in fiscal 21. Prior year in fiscal 21, the reason I'm comparing that is you did not have full-time treasurer collector's office. The office was part-time. It was split back then. There was a collector and a treasurer. I believe they were both part-time positions. When I was hired, the position was combined to make one position, one full-time treasurer collector, and we have one full-time assistant treasurer collector who is able to act on behalf of me in my absence, leaving nothing unable to be done by the town, which is really important to note because in the past that safeguard was not there, and that resulted in very costly I can't think of the word, but having people come in and being paid as vendors, not employees, to come in and fill these positions, because this is a position that's required. You need someone to sign payroll, you need someone to sign those AP checks, you need someone to be on those bank accounts in order to disperse funds and receive funds. So these increased collections do directly support the town revenue and the financial stability of the town. In fiscal 26, we've increased our investment in tax title. We actually doubled it in fiscal 26. We went from only having $6,000 in the budget to $12,000 in the budget. We also just had an article pass at special town meeting to give us some more money for tax title. This has helped generate more revenue. We are earning tax title interest earns at 16%. In the last 2 years, we've been able to triple the previous tax title collections. In fiscal 25, we collected $51,000 in past due taxes. In fiscal 26, so far this year, we've collected $68,000, and we have collected or expect to collect another $50,000 in the next month or so. That is all from letters that we sent out to delinquent taxes back in January. We sent those out of my office. There was about 180 letters that went out, and we got a great response to those. We've been getting payments pretty frequently and payoffs, which is great. It's just adding to hopefully free cash for next year. Oops, sorry, wrong one. This is just a snapshot of the collections. If you can see on the left-hand side, that's the real estate collections. You can see the growth from year to year. That not only has the levy gone up, but our collections down at the bottom, which is the light blue, our collections has gone down. So that's what we collected at the end of each fiscal year. So that means we're collecting more in the fiscal year that we are taxing. And then that purple line at the top is our collection rate, which shows on the right-hand side. So this is the budget reductions. So this is what the treasurer collector's office has cut from their budget in order to help with that. Like I said, we cut over 6% from our very minimal budget. So in 2024, we did make a change to town hall and we invested in a mailing machine. When I first started, every office was buying postage stamps. And so that meant that every department was using either their petty cash or whatnot and walking over, buying stamps and having to put that physical stamp on every envelope. They were also ordering the more expensive sealed envelopes that you just rip the thing off to make it faster. Purchased a mailing machine through a state bid, so we have a really good price on it, but it saves 3 cents per envelope for all town departments. We also centralized that mailing budget into my department. So when I say my budget is small, my budget also houses all of the postage for all of the town. Every department has a code, and they're able to now order the cheaper envelopes, which we did source out a much cheaper envelope within the last year or so. We're getting envelopes for much cheaper than we were by using MassCore printing services. So they're printing the envelopes and giving them to the town. And we were able to cut $5,000 just from centralizing the postage in the last couple of years. That $5,000 came from my budget this year. So prior staff, like I said, when the office was separated, there were 3 staff. I think I'm not sure if it was part-time, full-time or whatnot, but those 3 staff had to all have logins for our software. Our software does charge by license. So by only having 2 full-time staff and combining the office of treasurer and collector, we were able to save about $1,000 on software licenses for the town. We have also been utilizing free print services for all excise and demand bills instead of outsourcing. So we have our deputy collector, who's wonderful, Jeffrey and Ware, does offer to print our bills for free for us. They print them and they drop them off. And then we use the envelopes and our wonderful postage machine that we got, and we stuff and mail those envelopes so that we're not paying a bill printer for every single bill that goes out. The only bills that we do utilize the mailing service for is real estate, personal property, and excise commitment 1, and that is because that is about 7,700 bills that goes out, and there's only 2 of us in the office, and we have a lot of hats and a lot of things that we do every day. But all of the subsequent mailings and demands do go from our office. So the other line that really got cut, and I'm sad to say, is that all of our staff training and schooling has been cut from our budget. My assistant is working towards her certifications. She is not going to be able to attend school. And I have only budgeted for me to attend for 1 day. I am a Massachusetts certified treasurer and collector. That took me 6 years to obtain that certification. I had to test and I have to maintain my certification, which means I have to attend at least 1 day of annual schooling every year. So that is all that has been budgeted. The really unfortunate thing about that is that the laws are always changing. I think Teresa showed the book of information and knowledge that we have to have in the finance department for municipal government. And the laws are always changing. For example, the tax title laws drastically changed November 1st of 2024. And thankfully in my budget, I had the ability to attend a lot of trainings because there was a lot of unknown with that tax title, which is why I haven't had an auction. I'm looking to have an auction. I'm trying to work with zoning right now to have an auction because I do believe we have some properties that we might be able to combine to make buildable lots. I just need their help identifying those to see if they are something that we can do. We also have been able to cut just another $1,000 by careful purchasing. We're purchasing the cheapest possible products. We are using and reusing things in our office. We haven't had to buy a lot of products that I feel like they were buying in the past, thinking they were going to need them. We kind of have it honed down to what we need, and we only buy what we need. But the largest cut to our budget has been the tax title line. And I do believe that without investing in that line, it's going to be a lot harder for us to pursue collection efforts. Prior to fiscal 25, there was consistently only $3,000 budgeted in this line. And without investing, we're unable to utilize our attorney to help send out letters Sometimes me sending the letter just doesn't get the response that an attorney on a letterhead could get from somebody. But that costs money. We have to spend money to make money is really the unfortunate thing when it comes to tax title. And it hasn't been invested in the past. And that's one of the biggest things that I noticed when I started here is that you really do need to invest that money to get that money back. And we have about $660,000. I think it was in the next slide. No, sorry. So we have about $660,000 with about 180 properties that are in tax title right now. Out of those properties, we only have 15 that have been filed in land court. And the reason being is that it's almost $700 per property just to file that property in land court. That doesn't include any of the work that our tax title attorney is going to do on that property on behalf of the town to move that through land court. It takes years and years and years to get a property through land court before the town finally owns the property. It could be 10 years, it could be longer. I have seen it take even just 2 or 3 years to go from when everything has been said and done through the land court and we're just waiting on a final judgment. We have 5 properties right now that everything has been done and we're just waiting on a judgment on the town to be the owner of the property. And then we would be able to move forward with an auction. So to go over again, the treasurer collector is the custodian and receiver of all town funds, consistently sending letters and demands for payment to all delinquent property. We post payments within 24 hours of receipts. Bank accounts are also balanced within 30 days and verified with accounting. That was not happening in the past, especially when you had consultants that were sitting here, filling the position, but they weren't reconciling those accounts timely. I make sure that those accounts are balanced and reconciled with the accountant every single month we balance. And then again, we've combined the offices and duties to ensure the continuity of operations and reduce the staffing turnover. Again, it's very important that we have that assistant treasurer collector, that if something were to happen to me, she's already on the bank accounts. She can step into my role and do my job if something were to happen to me. Very important to not have to hire that very costly consultant if something were to happen. All right, so this is to get into a little bit more of the tax title balances. So a little more than I thought, 177 properties, $688,000. Only 15 are in land court, 5 are awaiting final judgment. A good amount of these are considered land of low value. So we would not file those in land court. It would go through the state as a land of low value. This requires a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of energy from my office and the assessor's office to get these even submitted to the state. And that's not even a guarantee that the state is going to say, yes, okay, we grant the town the ownership of this land. The years do range from 1994 to 2025. And then I'm not on the town's Facebook page, but I do know that a lot of the questions have been, but the town owns all these properties. We do, but only 43 of those are owned through tax foreclosure. Only 43 of those properties are actually auctionable properties, and almost all of them have been owned other than 4 since before I started and before the last auction that was done in 2017. Only 2 of these, I did have the prior zoning officer look into these right around when I started and the tax title laws were changing. I had the prior zoning officer help look into a couple of these. 2 of them are considered buildable lots. The rest are only a butter interest only, which is why I did mention that I am trying to have our current zoning officer look in and see if we might own some properties that we can combine, make buildable lots, and make them more appealing for a auctioneer. And then I am looking to hold an auction. Like I said, that is my goal. My goal is to try and, get these properties back on the tax rolls. I held 4 auctions in the prior community that I lived in. However, those auctions always had a residential or like a building. That's what attracts people. It's really hard to get an auctioneer to come out and just sell these abutter interest only land because it's not going to make, they work on commission. They get a percentage of that land. So if we hold an auction, it's most likely going to be me and our tax title attorney holding this auction, having to do all of the research, having to do there's a ton of research that goes into it, but as well as, we want to advertise it. We want to get the best turnout for the town so that we can make the most money off of this auction. I did actually get an email today from our tax title attorney that there's 3 properties that we're hoping to get a final judgment on within the next couple of weeks from Land Court. So hopefully that might be something that we'd be able to auction at the upcoming auction. That's it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Real quick, I'm going to step in for the town clerk. Unfortunately, Clarissa was not able to make it tonight. So I'll speak briefly to the budget cuts and the changes in her office. She will be on the reduced budget at this point, reducing the hours of operation, cutting a day. So instead of 4 days a week, it will be reduced down to 3 days. In addition to that, a position is proposed to be cut as well, and that position is responsible for all the dog licensing. What will happen is that with the reduced hours and the remaining employees in that office, so that would leave 2 employees, they will be taking on the additional work in the short hours. That's with the town clerk's office. We're going to step into recreation, and recreation's budget has been cut all the way down to $1,500. So what does that mean? That means there will be no lifeguards this year for the town beach. The expenditures will only cover the trash and the porta potty. So that's what recreation is looking like. And then we're going to turn it over to library.
All right. I'm gonna make the bad joke that I belong in a library, so if you can't hear me, I'm sorry, I'll try and speak up. But while Teresa is bringing up my presentation, my name is Amy. I have been the library director for just under 2 years. I mark my anniversary in May. And then what happened to the little clicker?
It is.
All right. All right. So I'm going to focus primarily on the reduced budget impacts. However, in libraries, there are some state certification and state agencies that dictate what my budget needs to look like in a given fiscal year. So I'm going to go into some of that as well. Oops. All right. So a little bit of an introduction, and I apologize for all of the acronyms I'm going to have to throw at you this evening, and I'll try and repeat them. But the major organization in Massachusetts that governs libraries is the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, or the MBLC. They are the state agency with the statutory authority and responsibility to organize, develop, coordinate, and improve library services throughout the Commonwealth. They're wonderful. I keep a tab open to their webpage on my desktop computer almost all the time. One of the major programs that they administer is the State Aid to Public Libraries program, which this distributes local aid to municipalities for the library, and they manage the state certification, the requirements that I'm going to get into throughout the rest of this presentation. Then, just as a note, I've abbreviated the Merriam-Gilbert Public Library as MGPL throughout the presentation pretty consistently. The Merriam-Gilbert Public Library in West Brookfield, I was told by one of the coordinators for the network, is why they had to change the way that the text wraps in certain fields because our full name and town end up so long. But Our wonderful network is CW Mars, and they are 167 member libraries throughout central and western Massachusetts. All right, so there are the regulations and standards that I alluded to put forth by the MBLC are to keep the library certified in good standing. So there are 3 major components that can get broken down further, but the library needs to, wrong way, to meet its municipal appropriation requirement, or MAR. I'm going to go on and on about the MAR in a little bit, so I'll hang on that one. Meet minimum standards for free public library service. And then there are some annual reports and forms that I submit every year to verify the compliance of these other metrics. All right. So that municipal appropriation requirement, or MAR, is part of the Massachusetts general law. It states that a municipality must appropriate a figure of at least the average of the last 3 years' municipal appropriations, increased by 2.5% for the public library to be certified for state aid. So this calculated figure is the MAR, the municipal appropriation requirement. Under the reduced budget scenario, if the override fails to pass, the library won't be hitting that MAR figure. And I'll get into that a little bit further as we go on. But just know, in the reduced scenario, the library does not meet its MAR. The MAR is the figure that a public library, that a town must appropriate to its public library annually. So I'm going to take a step away from that, and we're going to look at the minimum standards for public libraries. These are minimum standards, so they're generally pretty basic. A library must be open to all residents of the Commonwealth. So no matter what town you're from, if you come into the library, you get equal services, equal access to the materials, spaces, meeting rooms, programs, and so on in the library building. Make no charge for normal library services. The circulation of materials, it's already a service that you've paid for with your taxes. So we can't charge beyond that. There are some allowances for printing and special collections and things like that, but for us, it's just the printing. Otherwise, everything we do is already included in the appropriation that has come from all of your tax dollars. And then there's a minimum hours requirement that's scaled by your population size. And this requires, for our population size, it requires some evening and weekend hours in addition to during the week. It's calculated on a rotating period of time. There are allowances for renovations, emergencies, and things like that. But furloughing and closing for fiscal reasons for an extended amount of time is a quick way to get yourself decertified, which is not a fate you want to meet. And I'll go into what that entails in a minute. And then also in the minimum standards for public libraries, there's some director personnel requirements having to do with the education for a director. In a library in a town smaller than 10,000, the director only needs to hold a bachelor's degree and complete a certification course from the MBLC. In your case, you actually meet the qualifications for a municipality over 10,000, which requires that the director hold a Master in Library and Information Science. And then there's a materials expenditure requirement. So a certain percent of the budget needs to be spent on materials annually. This again is scaled for population size. And then the final requirement is to lend books and other materials to other certified libraries in the Commonwealth. The certified is really important here because it's the policy to lend, the requirements to loan to other certified members, other libraries and municipalities in good standing with these requirements. All right. So the materials requirement, just briefly, for us, it's 19.5% on materials out of the budget figure or allocation, the appropriation. It's not calculated based off the MAR figure, but the actual appropriation, which is a slight difference that actually matters a significant bit, but there's also a lesser compliance mark, but I like to aim for the top one. So then the annual reports and forms. The major one, the major two are the annual report information survey, or the ARIS. This is my extra bit of summer fun besides summer reading. It is a report on the data of the previous fiscal year. I'm a little bit of a data nerd, so I actually love filling out this report annually and seeing the marks. And the data gets reported to the IMLS nationally. So I can go onto the MBLC website and look at all of the data for all of the peer libraries across Massachusetts. But this is really wide ranging. I report statistics about the collection, the total items in the library, the breakdown of ages and ranges and formats. I look at the circulation numbers, personnel, number of card holders, the programming, both number and attendance, the use of services such as computer and Wi-Fi usage in the library, and reference questions in a given year. I wish it had me report on my fax machine usage, because you never know when you might need to send a fax. And if you ever do, come to the library. We have one, and no charge to send a fax. Unlike Staples, which is... and then the second component to that is the financial report and application for state aid, which opens after the ARIS closes. This has to do with verification of income and expenditures from the previous fiscal year. And I also submit a projected for the upcoming fiscal year. And I send in bits of the omnibus budget that gets approved at town meeting to go with that. And then it's also really nice to see that all my numbers line up to hit that certified status through the MDLC form, even though I know I'm gonna hit them. The final one that I want to talk about is the MAR waiver, which is not one that every library has to apply for. The MAR, again, is that municipal appropriation requirement. And if your town, your municipality is undergoing significant financial hardship, this is a process that recognizes that and provides acknowledgement while allowing you to stay certified and a part of the program in good standing. But it's limited to 5 consecutive years. And it's kind of like an improvement plan. They want to see what you're doing within each of those years to get back to the level that that the MAR figure, that the full appropriated requirement amount is met. So here are some of the reasons to maintain your library certification. The first one is directly directly from the MBLC website, which pulled the appropriate legal citation from the legislature. But it again iterates that the requirement to lend library materials to patrons of other municipalities is again only certified municipalities. It is the policy of the Miriam Gilbert Public Library to not loan to decertified communities, and we're in good company. Over 90% of the libraries in the state do not loan to residents of decertified municipalities. There are, and the ones that don't tend to be out in the Berkshires, out where there are lots of smaller libraries. In one case, there's a town that doesn't have a public library, another that's open so infrequently that they don't apply for state aid through the program. So that's really where it is. So if we lose our certification, you couldn't just go to Brookfield and use their library like you would use ours. You'd be stuck to the materials within our library building. So if we'd ever placed anything on hold for you, we couldn't do that. It would just be what's on our shelves at the given time. And then you must maintain the state certification to be eligible for grants that are administered through the state and the federal grant money. There's the Small Libraries and Networks grant, which is one that the MBLC gives directly to CW Mars, again, our library network, on our behalf. That amounts to $2,500 off my membership bill, off our membership bill to be part of CW Mars, which they're an incredible library network. They're the best library network in the state, and I say that with no bias, a little bit of bias, but it's they're just a wonderful service, especially to the smaller libraries. And then the resource sharing opportunities of being certified and being able to loan materials from other certified communities. In fiscal year 2025, West Brookfield residents took out 3,884 items that came from other libraries. If we calculate that out at an average cost of $15 per material, that comes to $58,260, which is more than my entire materials line in this fiscal year, certainly in the reduced scenario, and in the level funded if the override passes. So it's a significant sum, and it's a really big resource for us all. All right, so back to that MAR calculation, the municipal appropriation requirement. So it is taken from the last 3 municipal appropriations or the MAR figure, whichever is higher. So this is what the calculation looked like for the MAR for fiscal year 2027. So I took the numbers from fiscal year 2024, fiscal year 2025, and this fiscal year. I took the average of those 3, and then I increased it by 2.5%, or I multiplied by 1.025, which got me to 217,594 and some change. The official guideline and official recommendation is to pad that a little bit in case of rounding errors. So the MAR figure for fiscal year 2027 is $217,600. So more about the MAR. The MAR does not go down. The only way to see a reduction in the MAR is to be decertified for more than 3 years, because that'll reset the calculation.
but no one wants to be decertified for 3 years. No one wants to be decertified at all. In fact, all libraries participating in the state aid for libraries program through the MBLC, every single one is certified and in good standing right now. So what happens is when we go to get back up to the level of our MAR, anything that we've reduced out of our budget has to find its way back in. I can calculate it out for subsequent years. And so the calculated MAR figure for fiscal year 2028 is 220,311. So that would be the number that we would need to meet next year in fiscal year 2028, which is, we just want to get through fiscal year 2027. But that is the figure that the figure keeps rising. The MAR does not go down. So here with tiny itty bitty numbers that I hope you can see in the back, I have both kind of budget scenarios. The top one is the budget that hits me exactly at my MAR, and then the reduced budget, which drops me from the MAR, which is the $217,600, to I was able to kind of scrabble out to get myself down to 203,18. And again, we don't know what the cuts are going to look like in total. This is just where I am at the moment. But that is a 20%, almost 21% reduction in my expense lines if the override fails, for about a 5.5% reduction overall. So this, this is the reduced budget as I have it now for the various expense lines. The heating line here, I put a little bit more money into the line instead of reducing it. I moved it from other places because as of right now, I'm over what my budgeted heat was for fiscal year 2026. Granted, it was a bad heating year for us all, but National Grid is proposing rate increases for next year. So to buffer that, I put a little bit more money into it. This number here is an anomaly. National Grid last year had a big billing error, so we can't look at that number. But the majority of the decreases, other than slashing my professional development line and reducing maintenance a little bit and scrabbling where we could before we all got to the real meat of the cuts that we didn't want to make, any of us as departments. So I eventually had to come for my books and materials line, which it's a library. It's not the only thing we do, but it's the primary thing that people think of us as doing. So I dropped that down to 28,000. So this dues and membership here covers the cost of our membership to CW Mars, which includes our internet line for the library and is a real bargain. They have a value calculator, and to get all of the services that we get through our CW Mars membership, it would be about $90,000 to start to replace them. So some overview points on that reduced budget. The current reduction takes us down to $14,582 below that MAR figure. So that'll mean filling out the waiver and doing paperwork and writing letters as to the process. But we're not the only one in that boat. I've been talking with the coordinator of the state aid program who oversees the waiver process and all of that. Then
this kind of goes into it. The books and materials line is facing a cut of 33% over this year's budget, the fiscal year 2026 budget. This does not meet that materials requirement number either. The materials requirement, which, like I said, is calculated from what gets appropriated rather than the MAR figure. So instead of having it be from the 217,600, it gets calculated from the 203,18. So the materials expenditure for that full compliance of 19.5% is $39,589, which that's a gap of $11,589 to get us back from that $28,000, which is a scary gap. It's going to have to be filled with grants, asking the Friends of the Library to help cover materials, rather than using them to help fund programming and things like that. The state aid, which is limited, is another potential source, but grants and the work of the Friends of the Library is going to have to help me fill that gap. And so it's going to lead to less overall funding for new library materials with increasing cost for those items. So back in the fall, our major book vendor, Baker and Taylor, went under. And kind of adapting to the new status quo, but the materials are costing more and they're not coming into the library shelf ready. We have to spend staff hours to process them, put covers on the books, barcodes, spine labels, all of that, which is just another step before getting them into the system so that we can get them into the hands of all of you. So the landscape of the vendor market for that is still a little hairy. I am working on it. I am pestering different vendors. They keep saying, not yet, not yet. We're still surveying our options, but I keep sending them emails. We're gonna have to prioritize our the most popular titles, the most popular formats, the most popular items. And so that's going to also be a reduction in spending in the e-resources. Those are rather costly, and CW Mars, the collection is shared, and the network themselves, part of that membership fee goes into paying for items on that platform, as well as federal funding to those lines. So we'll have to rely on that more, which will mean longer waits for popular titles, unfortunately. And then, like I said, there will be reduced offerings in programming, as much as, especially the ones that have outside performers and vendors involved, just due to cost, because we'll be having to rely on those sources of fundings that we've put into those programs to ask for materials. And so, in conclusion, I wanted to leave it on a little bit of a brighter note. My first thing that I tell anyone when I tell them about how much about my job is how much I enjoy working in the community of West Brookfield, how much I enjoy working with all of you and seeing you all. And the library provides a return on investment of 328% based off of what we're allocated. So it's a significant thing that the tax dollars, we magnify them in the services that we give. We're net lenders in the state system, so we send out more items than we have to take in. So our library collection is a point of pride. We find the items that we want on the shelves, and we have them there for you in most cases. And then we have an average weekly visitor count using fiscal year 2025 numbers of 425 people through the door on average. That we're open a similar number of total hours to our neighbors, but we get about 4 times the amount of people through our doors in a week. But we are facing some real threats. We all are, if the override fails to pass. So I guess that's where I'm gonna leave you all, so that we can get on to Kelly.
Thank you. We're going to have the Senior Center Director come up and speak. And then after that, we're going to open it up to questions and answers.
It's short and sweet. There's no PowerPoint. It's just myself. For those that don't know me, my name is Kelly Hitt, and I'm the director of this West Brookfield Senior Center here. It's a place for those 60 and over to gather and hang out. Welcome to my second home. I really, truly enjoy this job, and it's not a job to me. I look forward to coming in here and hanging out with everybody. And it's not hanging out. We are busy. Our repeat weekly activities include functional fitness, Tai Chi, chair yoga, Zumba Gold, a walking group, pitch, bridge, mahjong, canasta, a quilters group, Dunkin' Divas, which is a coffee group that gets together and, hangs out and gossips. The Busy Bees, which is a knitting group that contribute a lot to Camp Putnam and pediatric hospital units for what they put together. It's phenomenal. On top of just the repeat activities that I just spoke about, we offer a book club, bingo, musical at times, which we can all dance, groove, and have a great time. Mini manicures, a foot care clinic, a hearing clinic, a blood pressure check hour, movie day, ham radio group meets here, open sew group meets here, and a few educational events that we offer, such as a tech guidance, WISE, which is courses via Zoom. It's the Worcester Institute for Senior Education. We have Medicare help. We have a sleep program coming up. We have healthy eating on a budget. And you can get the idea from that. That's only a few things we do here. Also, a few fun events that we do. Bemis comes in for workshops. We have a craft hour. We have chair massages coming up. Holy cow. Well worth it. Home cooked lunches here. On occasion. We're trying to do 1 a month. At some point, we'd like to do 2 a month. And we offer opportunities to go on a Quabog River cruise. We have bus trip information offered by Lakeshore Travels to various local places and a few out-of-state places. We also have a coffee hour once a month to celebrate each other and the birthdays of that month. We honor our veterans on their day annually with a full cooked sit-down breakfast. And again, it's only part of what we do here. The variety of programs and ongoing activities provide our older generation of people an overall sense of support, whether it is a better sense of emotional well-being or an increased sense of purpose in life. Isolation is one of the many factors in an older person's life. Many people become isolated as they get older. They find it harder to go places, to visit their friends, and they find comfort in just staying home. That's kind of sad. Add to this the loss of a spouse, and the fact that family members are living out of state can compound their emotions, resulting in the isolation and the fears of being a burden or unwanted. This building, we hope, provides a lifeline for people to feel safe and to continue those friendships. There's a lot of laughter and tears in this building. A lot happens under this roof. And we're also a lifeline for people to make and continue friendships. Can you tell I'm nervous? No. Our resources are plentiful here. We have an outreach person, a Shine representative, and volunteers who have absolutely done their homework. People call in here with questions, asking about guidance for fuel assistance, SNAP benefits. We have someone to help you fill out your applications. We have nursing home information, home nursing care providers, lawn care, reliable handyman help, snow removal help, legal guidance, scam questions, and an area of housing availability, to name a few. So when you call here, you can expect to have some names or phone numbers when you hang up. Our volunteers are phenomenal, and there's no I in team in this building. We all work toward a common goal, and that's to make life a bit easier when you're a little bit older in age. We also provide a landing spot for the Tri-Valley Meals on Wheels program. Every weekday morning from 7 a.m. until noon, our fully equipped kitchen is used to package meals for approximately 135 people. The food is brought in fully prepared, placed in trays, sealed, packed into warm totes, and delivered to 4 surrounding towns. Eligible West Brookfield, North Brookfield, Warren, and Brookfield seniors are able to have a nutritional meal with a nominal donation. We were asked in October to start planning our FY27 budget. The guidelines were to create a level funded budget, so if the override passes, and a reduced budget if the override fails. How will this affect the senior center if the override fails? Not going to do it. I'm not crying. If the override fails, our senior center will be closed on Fridays. With that closure, we will be attempting to shift Zumba Gold, Bridge, Walking Group, and Pitch to other days. Those are the regular events. The monthly events that will be affected would be Coffee Hour, the Hearing Clinic, the Blood Pressure Clinic. Finding a place on the calendar will be tough, as these programs are also committed to other senior centers. There would be a tremendous loss for many people who rely on those services. And this is only one scenario. As Teresa said prior, there are other cuts coming, and they're going to be bigger and deeper. If deeper cuts are to come, then we will be made to close on Tuesdays also. This means that Tai Chi, Dunkin' Divas, and the Busy Bees will need to shift to another day. We would most likely lose highly popular instructors, as they have other senior centers that they are committed to weekly. To some, this might not seem like a big loss. In fact, according to the state, we're considered a non-essential part of a municipality. While I do understand that being a realist, to a degree, I highly feel that they are incorrect. Our senior center is in part a lifeline for some of our residents. It's a building that holds space for them, whether in a group or individually. A place to come and sit, drink tea, coffee, or water while sitting with a friend. A place to join others for a program or learn a new skill. We are a place that sons and daughters have called, asking for advice on how to help their aging parent or parents. Where can they go for some services, in-home help, or what activities can their parents join in our senior center? Small to some, but large to others. We feel that we are a cornerstone in our community. If we're to lose days, so be it. We understand the reasons, but it won't be easy. Even if the week is shorter, we will make every effort to offer as much support to our 60 and older community. They've worked all their lives to raise their family, run their households, and contribute to their community. We only want to offer them a space to enjoy the fruits of their before retirement lives. The senior center might be only a small part of a whole for some people, but for some people, it is a whole part of their world. The saying, "I believe that children are our future," is true, but keep this in mind. Children are also our future senior citizens. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I apologize that there wasn't enough room, but we tried.
Very good job.
Did a great job. Can I just pass out now?
All right, we have a little bit of time left. We have about 20 minutes or so. If there are any questions of our departments out there.
I have a question. How many residents in West Brookfield now?
I know that. 3,883 people as of the 2020 census.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If nobody's going to ask any questions, can I make a statement?
You can, and then after you make a statement, we have someone from EMS that would like to make a statement.
Okay. My wife and I chose to settle here largely because we didn't see a town. We saw a community. We saw beyond the beauty of the common. We saw its intention, especially when we saw our first bandstand concert. This wasn't just a town, it was a warm, thriving community where people cared about each other. That's what we saw and that's what we believed. I decided I wanted to contribute, so I found ways to do that. I figured that's what community members should do. Through my participation, I observed that there are a lot of truly good, hardworking, selfless people in town government, both paid professionals and volunteers who get up every day and do their work with honesty, integrity, and purpose. This is what I observed on the inside, and I'm thankful for it. I keep telling this truth about the people working for you because I believe that they are the nerves, the muscles, and bones that keep the body of our town thriving. Maybe that's a bit of a strange analogy. So I'll take it further. The people in this community are the heart, and in many ways the mind as well, because to function well, they cannot be separated. We, for better or for worse, decide whether the body of our community is healthy or sick, whether the mind is content or depressed, hateful or loving, open or withdrawn, bold or paranoid. We need to pay attention. A town may exist despite what its people do, but a community evolves or devolves. It thrives or dies depending on its people. It is depressing watching people online swipe at those in town government without having knowledge of what is happening on their behalf within the walls of the town hall. I saw a post the other day where someone relayed the fact that they bought their house for $60,000 or so years ago, and now it's worth 4 times that much. It had nothing to do with the fact that that price went up. Why should they pay taxes on the value now? I wanted to respond. To those same people who say overrides are forever, who don't want to pay a cent more in tax for this town, I ask, do you participate in your town government? Maybe you do. Do you understand why taxes go up, why they even exist? Valuable, talented town employees have left because they were not being paid commensurately with salaries of other towns. Town officials have quit or are being forced to watch as employees under them quit due to lack of pay or conditions that require them to work twice as hard for the same amount. Though now I'm on the outside looking in, I still observe. It's obvious. For so many of those that left, morale is in the tubes. When people feel unappreciated, attitudes change. Our community is sick. And it's all about money. To all our community members here, I sincerely hope you make up your mind based on your own knowledge and not someone who is telling you to vote a certain way. Are they looking out for their future of a community, or are their interests a bit more self-focused? Just think about what future you want for this community. Do you want young people with children to move here? Seriously, do you want this community to grow or not? That's a valid question. We all have an important decision to make here. It's a lot deeper than some cliche on a sign. Here's a cliche to think about. Penny wise, pound foolish. I'm a homeowner and I will be happy to pay a little bit more taxes to continue to live in a safe, inviting community with a future.
Good job.
Okay, well, that's incredibly difficult to follow after. So my name is Bree. I work with the West Brookfield Rescue Squad. I've been a member for about 2 years. Recently, we had a lot of internal changes of our own that we had to overcome. We voted in a new chief back in October, new board of directors. I am one of the board of directors members. I came today because although we are not affiliated with the town, we are non-municipal. We are contracted to work for you guys. And we love it. And I've actually been looking, so I'm gonna talk to you later after this if you're okay. My mom and I are looking to buy a house and we have been trying to find one here in West. I've been trying to educate myself on everything that this town has going on. I learned at the last meeting that West Brookfield currently has less tax rates than all the surrounding towns, which is great. But at the same time, like this gentleman just said, in order to thrive and become a better town, it's a small sacrifice overall that we do have to consider making. And as I was listening to all these departments come up here today and talk, I'm realizing more that everything is connected. So PD, if this override doesn't go through, if we say no, we're not increasing anything, PD won't have the staffing. As for EMS, that tells me if I respond to a call at 2 a.m. where someone is in danger, but you have a beware of dog sign on your house, which is a very simple thing, I have to wait now for an officer because I can't enter that home until that scene is safe for me to enter. So now you have to wait for more help, which is insane. If fire's, Chief Bissett is coming into a lot right now, and so far he's been handling it very well. But he's already looking at what he can do to help you guys as well. We have to help them do that. If highway has to have their budget cut as well, the times where a lot of you on those back roads that our ambulance gets stuck in your driveway because we can't have the plow company come out and help plow that driveway so we can get to you, that's stuff that you guys might not even realize. The amount of times that we say, can you get the DPW over there to start going? It's frequent. It's little things like that that I'm realizing are connected. The senior center, we have an event coming up this month that Kelly has allowed us to do where we're going to teach fall prevention to some of the seniors and anybody who wants to go. I've gone to a coffee hour. I'll be at the one on the 17th. It's all these things in your communities that it may not directly impact you. Not right now, but it does all connect. It's a giant domino effect. And as someone who wants to move into this town, I have a little brother and a little sister that I'm bringing with me. I know the thing with the school, we don't know where that's going yet. I actually ran into someone who's doing an event, it's a 5K, to try and help keep the school open for another year. I don't know what's gonna happen with that, but I'm gonna be at that 5K because I wanna see this town grow and thrive. I think if you guys all plan to still be here, you want your families here and you want new families coming in, we really have to consider it. Passing this. That's all I have to say.
Yes, sir. Sure.
What is the increase going to be that you can project? No one talked about this.
So the increase for, if it were the 1.6, the total rate, tax rate would be $13.01. Hold on here and I'll pull up the prior presentation that we.
It's also on the website too.
It is. All that information's on the website. As a matter of fact, if you go, what is going on? If you go to the website and you go to the town administrators page, you are going to find so much information. There is the tax impact. If you look at that document, I put the charts there, but I've also put the state links there. That way you don't think I'm making it up. You can go to the state's link and do it yourselves. There's the calculations and all of that. But just to answer your question real quick, let me see here.
Teresa, the 1.1 was 1231.
Thank you. Thank you.
What does that represent per household?
Well, I did mine for 480,000 evaluation. The 1.1 was like $700 and something increase, and the 1.6 was like closer to $1,100 increase. And that's my, valuation.
There you go. All right, so the 1.6 on this, so according to the state, the average single-family assessed value is $413,594. The impact to your tax bill, so the current tax bill is $4,446. The addition will be another $934.72. On the website, you're going to see that a tax impact document that's going to give you a whole list from $250,000 right up to $2 million. And again, there'll be links that you can click on to go to the state site and check that out yourselves. Yep.
You want to quickly explain the ballot question with the two amounts and how they can, just so we have some clarification, like we did at the last meeting?
Okay.
Or do you want me to?
So there are two questions, and I think some people had wondered what those questions entail, right? And so the 1.6 million is a level service budget for town government. So all the services that you have today with no extra staffing, no additional programs, but the same level. And the level service budget of Quabog Regional School District, which was on their budget presentation, option number 1. All right, so that came close to, I want to say $1 million increased. The next override question, the other option is option 1B. That question is a $1.1 million override. What that consists of, again, level services for town government, and that one includes the lowest budget that was provided by Quabog Regional School District. Any questions there?
So if the 1.1 gets voted in and not the 1.6, the school does not get the above minimum contribution that it's been.
Of course, it gets yes, it is above minimum, as a matter of fact. So I want to say it's 349,500, somewhere in there, above minimum. State minimum requirement for the town was increased by 302,000. That was a big hit for us. We didn't expect that. So in total, it does include over about $350,000 above minimum.
So in years prior, when the above minimum was given to the school, what was that figure? That was closer to 500,000?
No, I think it was 1 year that it was, which might have been last year.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I can pull that chart up.
So I'm just wondering the gap. So even if we don't get the 1.6, if the 1.6 does not happen,
right,
end of the road, the school's still not getting the money that is required or needed for it to even function and keep the doors open. It really doesn't. I know.
It's level services, but even the 1.6 does not guarantee that the school stays open.
Understood, long term. I totally.
Nope, it doesn't mean that it stays open. Not even short term. We don't make that decision by Prop 2.5 override. The select board doesn't make that decision. The school committee makes that decision. And that's as far as I can bring you because I'm not school committee. So that's not a town decision there. Okay.
A follow-up question just to that, just because I had a really hard time understanding the 1A and the 1B, and I'm trying really hard to. so the 1.6 million though would be in the best interest of the town, right? Like more so than the 1B 1.1?
The 1.6
Because they're both
gives
level
the
service.
school level service. Now, the school system had proposed 3 different budgets. There were 3 different options.
Right, and then option 2 got taken out because of the
Because it doesn't make
transportation
sense.
fund. Right, so
Yeah.
it's either level service or close. Those are the 2 options that we're basically being given.
So is the 1.6 in the, like, for all these departments and things like that? I mean, maybe a department specifically could help
The
me.
1.6 covers, like I just said a few minutes ago, it covers the level services for town government. So all these departments, all the town departments, level service. The 1.1 covers level services for the departments. The difference is the school. One is for the largest budget that they submitted. The second one is the smallest budget they submitted.
Okay, thank you.
But just so that you know, we're not gonna be here all night.
We don't have much longer. I know I don't need any more clarification, so he doesn't, I think that makes sense.
Ask me the question?
Ask Mr. Duff.
At the last meeting,
Yep.
did you say that whether this passes or not, the school's gonna close?
I did not say at the last meeting whether this passes or not, the school is gonna close. What happened at the last meeting is there was a representative from the town of Warren Finance Committee who said that if the $1.6 million passes in West Brookfield, that Warren would not be able to meet their required contribution. So that's not me saying that the school's gonna close. Whatever West Brookfield puts in as their above minimum contribution, and I wanna be very clear about this. Number one, I wanna thank all the departments in here with Nate and Jim and EMS. We work very closely with all of these departments. We all work collaboratively. What happened in the last meeting is Warren has limited amount of funds as well. There's more funds than the town of West Brookfield has, clearly. They're not going for a 2.5% override. But if the $1.6 million were to pass in the town of West Brookfield, the finance committee in the town of Warren has said that they cannot match their above minimum contribution to match what West Brookfield could possibly put forward.
Right. But did you say that the attendance at the elementary school is cut in half?
I can tell you that, and I'll say it in front of everybody and on the camera. When I started at Warren Elementary School, I had over 500 kids. The projected enrollment district-wide next year between Warren and West Brookfield is 500 kids. We have had a decrease in enrollment because, quite frankly, I don't think people are having as many kids as they used to have in the past.
Plus, there's the Montessori schools, there's homeschooling.
Yeah, there's lots of different factors.
There's so many, right.
Yep, they really are. And the hard part
But
is...
we had 400 and some odd students in elementary.
Yep.
And we're down to 230 something.
250 roughly, and 60 of them are
That's
school
just what I
choice
wanted
kids.
to tell,
Well,
let
he did
everybody
say
know.
that he didn't say that though, so you didn't say that, it would for sure mean that, right? So
Once again,
you never said that.
right, I don't decide whether schools stay open or closed.
Right.
And this is very difficult, and when we did meet with the West Brookfield, at West Brookfield Elementary School, ideally, what we would like is to keep a school open in each community. However, we have a capacity issue. West Brookfield doesn't have the capacity to host over 500 students or house over 500 students. We've looked at several different ways, moving 6th grade up to Quabog so that we'd have K through 5 in West Brookfield and have 6 through 12 at Quabog. We don't have the capacity at Quabog. We looked at keeping a K through 3 school at West Brookfield because I'm a firm believer that schools should stay open in communities. I just firmly believe that. However, schools unfortunately are businesses as well, and that's the hard part that we have to look at. I know Cammie, we were talking the other day, and I said Pam Griffin had done a spectacular job. I thought it was 3 years ago. She told me it was 10 years ago. But we've been talking about this, unfortunately, and the towns have been
so supportive of not just the schools, but all of the other departments. But we've spent all our free cash, including the school department, to keep things intact as long as we can. And we've hit that cliff. And the hard part is there's difficult decisions that have to be made. Nobody wants to close a school. I want to be clear about that. However, when we look at our enrollment going down by almost 50%, it's very difficult to make financial decisions that are going to impact towns in the way that West Brookfield's being impacted right now. So that's where we're at. The other hard piece, and I want to be clear about this with the residents as well, if the 1.6 million goes through, this is a one-time fix to a problem. The hard part that we're going to be is we're going to be back in the same position next year. You're not regenerating $1.6 million over and over again. It's a one-time infusion, and please let the Chapter 70 formula come in. We were at a meeting, Teresa and Cami and Nikki today with the state legislators saying, we know that the Chapter 70 formula is the problem. We've been talking about that for years. They're putting a commission together to address it, but this isn't something that happens overnight, and I can't guarantee that the Chapter 70 formula is going to fix what our current problem is. I don't know if it will or if it won't, but I will advocate every second for our kids, whether our schools are in West Brookfield or in Warren. We have special dynamic kids within our communities, and it's our communities that make the kids. The school system is fortunate enough to have them. Yep. Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
You have a question. So there's a lot of chatter about the permanence of the override. And I think Mr. Duff just alluded to that when you said that 1.6 doesn't generate over and over and over again. Can somebody speak to whether an override is permanent?
Yes.
Please, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in the community.
Did you take it?
Right. So, thank you, Cami.
Somebody. So let's all be clear. I'm Cami Lamica, one of the select board members. And it was previously on the advisory board. And I used to do the finances at Quabog, so I got it covered. When it comes to an override, what we're doing is we're taking our current taxing capacity, which is right now, and we're at capacity. We're about $7.5 million. I'm not going to get into exact numbers. Every year, by law, we are able to raise it by 2.5% plus what they call new growth. Somebody builds a new house, put a garage on, that number gets added. This year, that number is $230,000. That's all the new revenue we have in town to support all the town departments and the school. $230,000. That's the root of our problem. We have $230,000 of additional revenue, and our expenses have gone up about $800,000. And Teresa has put the budget on the website that explains that, so you can see department by department where the increases fall. There's no big swiping other than health insurance and a few other things. Now, given what an override does is it takes that $7.5 million, our normal 2.5%, and our new growth, and we would add, let's say 1.1 million for the sake of a number right now. Add it. That tax levy generates $1.1 million, and it will stay at that higher level. Just so everybody's clear, it stays at that higher level. So your tax bill doesn't go down the next year, and it's only for the 1 year. The tax bill will go up from whatever number we have right now for your tax bill. It will go up, and it will stay at that higher level. And everybody's property value will change, and all that will keep going on just like it's done for now. But it doesn't go back down. The difference between a Proposition 2.5 override and a debt exclusion for instance, a fire truck. The debt exclusion increases your tax bill only for the life of the loan that we took. And as soon as that loan is paid off, that portion of your tax bill gets reduced again out of the town's budget. When you're increasing the override, it stays up there. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear that it doesn't go up for the 1 year and then come down. Let me just, one piece. We need, the finances are, this year is what's happening. What we're seeing growing is the expenses keep going up, but we're only generating the $250,000, $280,000. It's not going to be a fix forever, and that's the hard part. The expenses are continuing to grow faster than our revenues going forward. I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yep.
You know, my taxes this year went up quite a bit, 16%.
Yep.
What I can't understand is how properties in town have actually decreased. I did a sampling of about 36.
Yep.
And 13 of the 36 taxes decreased.
Yep.
Can you explain that to me?
That I'm going to send you, and I don't mean to pass the buck. I don't.
They can't explain it.
No, I don't have the answer. The assessors are the ones that are charged with that.
And they don't have an answer for it, because they can't explain it to me.
Well, that would be them who assess it, and they should have the answer of why. I unfortunately don't have that depth of knowledge of knowing why somebody went up. What I can tell you is we have so much capacity value-wise. We can't just increase the taxes to whatever we want. And if some property values go up, that's what sends the rate per thousand down. But if you have properties that are going down as well, that's where that rate, I call it a seesaw. You've got the tax rates go up or down, values go up, but you're not increasing any more tax revenue. We're getting the same $230,000 in new tax revenue. Even if everybody's property went up 10%, even if everybody's went up, the tax rate's going to go down. We're not going to get double the tax money the next year because everybody's property went up. That's where Proposition 2.5 increases. That's how it works. It is a total, and you can take a look on, I think Teresa put the links on, Department of Revenue has videos that explain in great detail how override works. And that's exactly why it limits that. It's not everybody's personal tax bill. It's the total taxable property in the town can only go up a total of 2.5%, generating more tax revenue. So if some properties go up, some go down, and the tax rate per thousand, that's the equation that gets us to that total number. Somebody else had a question?
I have a question for the police chief.
Nate.
Hi. So the scenario you described where we need to, the reduced services where we rely on the state police, and I think there was a bullet on one of your slides that said they do not carry oxygen or defib.
That's correct. Yeah, so the state police, was that your question?
Well, the question is, do you have any idea of what that might translate to? Are there other towns that have had to go down that road, and what is the comparable? Is there a estimated, how long does it take, an average? Because honestly, that feels to me a little bit like life or death.
Yeah.
In a town of an aging population, and 8 minutes is a really long time when you're staring at it.
That is, just so we're clear, that is life or death. I'm not someone that's going to say, fund us, everybody's going to die. That's not what we're out to say. But bad stuff is going to happen, and it's unpredictable, right? We had a critical medical call earlier this week where both myself and a sergeant went on it, and we literally saved a life, literally. If we don't have people in the building to do that, your response time is going to be longer. So precipitously, the likelihood of something bad happening is going to take longer. Our state, we rely heavily on the state police. We rely heavily on mutual aid to help, but not to answer the calls for us. And like Dee said, we carry oxygen and defibrillators in our cruisers. The Brookfield Barracks has one trooper dedicated to 6 towns. They call it the West. We are in the West. They have one trooper dedicated to 5 towns in the East, okay? One trooper for 6 communities. They could be in Warren, they could be in Paxton, and they could be in Barrie coming here. If that trooper's taken up and the East car is on 290, that trooper could be coming from Belchertown, Athol, Sturbridge, Holden. That's a really long time away for you guys to get help. To take a single domestic. I showed you a graphic, we had 250 license to carries. Would you believe that some of those domestics involve firearms, right? We had a medical with EMS, and we provided mutual aid. And part of that medical was really dangerous. One of the EMTs comes in, didn't realize how dangerous it was, and we literally had to throw the EMT out of the room because it wasn't safe. That's what we're looking at without an officer here. And when we talk about mutual aid, we talk about mutual aid, right? Brookfield's going through it right now with their midnight shift. A lot of us other communities are having a difficult time sending an officer if they can't send one in return for us. So that's what they're running into. And that's what we're going to run into when we have shifts that are going to go in field. And I can't guarantee it's midnight shift. We put midnight shift up there. But that was because people had asked, hey, well, you're just going to shut down midnight shift. No, we got to be a little bit more unpredictable than that. But not just being unpredictable, they have union contracts, and we got to obey by the union contracts too, and they're shift bidding. So it's going to be a bit unpredictable. It could be a random Thursday day shift, a Sunday evening shift. We just don't know. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Does that answer your question, Dee?
Another question for the police chief. So for the midnight shift, would you have an officer on call at all, or to respond?
That's a great question. We will not have an officer on call. We don't have an on-call program. An on-call program would cost money. I'm on call 24/7, 365. I do not live in West Brookfield. The way that would work is if there was an emergency, the state police would send somebody from somewhere to cover the emergency. If it's not an emergency, it's a barking dog complaint or something else that can wait till morning, they're going to hold that call till 7 a.m. until or till the next time somebody's in, 3 p.m., whenever the officer comes in, and then we're going to answer that call. So they're only going to do emergencies.
But for like a critical call where you need like immediate response, you can't rely on the state police. Would a town like Warren, any of the towns that have 24/7, be able to respond for a critical call?
I'm not sure. I can tell you, I just wrote a radio grant, and I can tell you we respond to Warren a lot more than Warren comes to us. We went to them 84 times in a year, 1 year of a study period. So 84 times we gave Warren assistance.
How many times did they come to us?
I didn't do that number, but I'm sure, maybe a dozen or two.
Yeah, not much.
Same thing with Ware, but Brookfield. So West Brookfield, North Brookfield, New Braintree, Hardwick, East Brookfield, then like Holland, Wales. We're all in the same radio system. We're on the same channel. So it's really easy for us to communicate, which is why I had to write the radio grant so we could communicate with Warren and Ware. But the short answer to that question is, I don't know. They might be busy. It's really hard to rely on a community to say, will you send your people to us because you won't fund, you choose not to fund having somebody else, have them in your own community. That's a tough question. I think we'd ask them. I think there was something really critical. It'd be tough for them to say no. At the end of the day, we all want to help people, right? That's why we came to this job. But if we didn't come into this job because we want to help people, well, you either left or you found a reason to want to help people and you stayed here. So.
Thank you. I've been so patient. I just wanted to say first, I thank you for all the different departments that spoke. I thought you all were very eloquent and very thorough. And you brought a lot of stuff to my attention that I didn't understand how serious it was. I also really liked the gentleman who stood up and spoke and said how,
Stand up and talk, we can't hear you.
Sure thing. So I like this other guy who spoke. He stood up earlier, and he talked of our community and our town and the place we live as a body. We all work together, and it's really amazing to sit here and see all these departments come together and tell you pretty much the same thing. There's a need. And it pulls on literally every single one of my heartstrings. It's not just about the kids. And I don't mean to say that. I have 3 of my own, young and in school. but it's about the whole body, the whole community, the seniors, our safety, people in distress. It scares me. Never have I had a need, and please God, don't ever give me one, to have to call a police officer in the middle of the night. But if I ever did and they took an hour to get there, or I think you said 36 minutes, God forbid, it's just a very, very scary thing to think myself or anyone in this community would have to deal with that. And I know that we're all in different financial areas and different areas with our raising our families, but every single one of your lives matter to me. And I want to make sure, and I know that they matter to all these people so much. And I just really hope that we can make the decision as collectively that we want to make sure that we're all doing well, you know. And I just think that we should all consider that at every age and every level of where we're at. Like, you know, we need each other, and it's just really important. And I think that I hope that we all just think that over, and I'm going to be thinking it over and praying it over, and I'm definitely going to be voting. So I just hope that you guys have gotten a lot of information, and I hope that we can save our community and all of our people that I care so much about. So that's really it.
I did want to just clarify, on the ballot, there will be two questions. Actually, it's one question, two parts. There's a 1A and a 1B. One has the $1.6 million override question. The other one has the $1.1 million override question. Each question asks, do you want to authorize, and I'm not going to say word for word, will you authorize the 1.6 million? Yes, no. You check whichever one. Next question. Will you approve the 1.1? Yes, no. You can answer both. It will only take one answer. And on the bottom of the ballot, it says, whatever receives the most positive votes is what passes. I just want to clarify that for everybody. There's a yes and a no for each question. It's not going to be a matter of we're going to double the amounts. I just want to clarify that for everyone. That's how the ballot question works, and the wording is right on the bottom of the ballot at the bottom of the two questions.
So you can vote yes twice.
You can vote yes for both. It's not doubling the amount. And it says the wording right on it. It will take the higher votes for the yeses or the nos is how it will be determined whether it passes and which amount passes. Any questions? Appreciate all your time. We have our last session Monday, April 27th at the elementary school, which has more room. So you're more than welcome to come back with more questions. Thank you.